Simple answer for that is intrigueness, inquisitiveness. Do you have the skill to observe and adapt? Somewhere I feel a lot of people get stuck in this agency rut. You kind of get so stuck because of the importance, because of the kind of eyeballs that you generate and you get from across all. You probably not want to kind of let that go. Post COVID, the constant evolution is much more faster than what it was before, prior to 2019. I am seeing communication changes, behavioral shifts in less than 6 months now.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with IndieFolio. Today we have Rahul Karthikeyan with us, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Scaler and InterviewBit. Rahul's had an incredible career spanning a decade plus, where he's worked with some fantastic agencies and brands. He started off doing sales, then led a lot of departments for a couple of leading agencies, and then he started his journey to being a CMO at some fantastic startups in India. We talk a lot about edtech, we unpack a lot of advice for young marketers, and discuss data versus creativity in marketing. Hey Rahul, thanks for your time and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kavan. Nice to see you. It is really a pleasure to be here and looking forward for this great podcast.
Superb. I'm really excited for this one. I think there's a bunch of things to discuss with you today. But the first question I had was to understand when did you decide to build a career in marketing? If I'm not wrong, I believe your first few stints were in sales. So how did the
Yeah,
shift happen?
I think all of that is a matter of coincidence. I think, see, for me, marketing journey has been very interesting. It all started not in 2008. I think it started in 1996. It started in 1996 because of the great Sachin Tendulkar. Um, that is when I started watching the cricket match. And there was a series that he had played back then, the Sharjah series, and he scored this back-to-back centuries on his birthday. Really inspiring. I mean, he's an icon, right? Sheer resilience, connection that he creates with millions of fans. That was my entry, and that is my entry into marketing as well. I think that's when Sachin actually picked up to becoming the god of cricket at some point, right? So it is obviously for me that is when I saw how to recreate sort of a spark. It's about connecting with people, influencing them, creating impact, through brilliant stories. Sachin had a great story as well back then, right? From rags to riches. I think that's where everything started for me. I was not really sure if I'll be a marketer back then. I think I was a pretty shy kid, absolutely an introvert back then. Somehow started my journey with sales, and then marketing was just, I would say it was a mere coincidence. It was always inspiring for me to go there, but did not know where to start. But then the Great Recession had come in 2008, and it just fell on. There was this one opportunity which was completely into marketing, and I just got it. So I would say it's a combination of my intent as well as well, where the fate had it. Just mere coincidence being here.
Awesome. Fun fact, I share my birthday with Sachin Tendulkar, and
Oh, lovely.
I was born in the year 1996. So there is some connection there.
Oh wow, that's great to hear. I think for me most of my journey started from 1996. It's become a very most important year for me.
Fantastic. I want to follow up with you on understanding, what it really takes to be a good marketer. Often what happens is today people are maybe thinking, they're in their 12th standard and they maybe want to pick up a stream. They want to pick up a focus area, what to study.
Hmm.
Marketing has really confused people today, because traditionally marketing was like celebrities के साथ काम करेंगे, you'll do some fun ads, and today marketing is all about data, cloud, a lot of number driven, ROI driven conversations. So traditionally people who were creative thought they'll be good in marketing, but now they're like, oh yeah, I can't do numbers, so I don't know if I'm the right fit. So as somebody who's built a career here, like, how do I know if I'm the right mind for marketing?
I think the simple answer for that is intrigueness, inquisitiveness, and do you have the skill to observe, right? Observe and adapt, right? So I think for me, it is just a mix of all of this, right? And then finally, um, once you have sort of inbuilt in you, or you have to work hard towards building that, then later comes your creativity, strategy, all of that. That is the polished version of any individual, right? So the unpolished version would be: do you have it in you to be a bit more inquisitive about why did this thing happen?
Mm,
Should I? Do you think this is the norm? Should I just look at from some other lens? Do you think this is how it's going to be? Do I need to really go by the books? Because I've been said so, I have to go by. It need not be, right? And today's generation, and I'm talking about the Gen Zs. Fortunately, most of them that I've met, they don't really believe in following those protocols and guidebooks. Kitab to hai, but theek hai, that's fine. So I think it's about that, and then finally doing through maybe some MBA programs and all of that, you bring out your polished version, which
mm,
which enables you to polish your creativity, strategy, all of that. It's also important. See, for me, it's all about storytelling. Marketing is all about storytelling, right? I think it's that's been my journey as well, right? So it is any brand that you pick, they've got some fantastic story at the back.
mm,
It's about that knack of picking that story, and then not everybody can do it. It's just you need to be inspired by that brand. You need to be inspired by the story to then come out, and that's what I see. Not everybody succeeds
mm.
in marketing. It's not easy. It's not easy as any hawker can come and sell marketing, right? So it's not that easy. You need to really push yourself to be in the creative field. Not everybody succeeds there. That's one of the reasons.
You know, your first stint was in sales, and I've had the privilege to interview a lot of CMOs. A lot of them started being sales folks in the start. Would you advise people who want to do marketing to start with sales?
Absolutely. I think it's more to less to do with sales. It's more to do with a role that can make you work very close to your consumer. Right? If you're engaging with your customer at a very early age of your career, you actually will start getting the pulse of the consumer, right? And um, a 4x4 office cannot solve what is the sentiment of a consumer outside. You need to really go and talk, right? And you have to be consistent at that. I think somewhere I was. That's one of the reasons I keep saying. I've been fortunate to be around. When I started off in the sales, I think it was there is this place called Grant Road in Bombay. I mean, that was the
Mhm.
area given to me, right? So, fantastic location. That's the place I have to go and sell my infomedia pages and all of that. It just let me go and get the pulse of each and every consumer from across all tiers, a businessman to a shopkeeper, and the sentiments that they carry, the perspective that they have is fantastic. And today I'm just fortunate that that story is so ingrained with me in terms of how the consumers think. I'm able to build that story now. I'm able to kind of really carve out and make those stories real, and that's where relevancy and everything comes up. It's easy to say, but you need to really step out. that's
Absolutely.
that's what.
I really believe in something Paul Graham says. He's one of the pioneers of Y Combinator, where do things which don't scale. And I feel marketing folk always are looking at scale, while sales more individual and personalized. So I feel it's always recommended do things which don't scale when you're small and young. And I think it doesn't just apply for companies but even for you as a person. Like I do sales at Indiefolio, and I love the feedback loop. Instead of somebody sitting way away from the customer and deciding the strategy to do their go to market, I'm
Hmm.
literally getting daily feedback on why they like me, why they don't like me, and every call makes me smarter. So I couldn't agree more. I want to now discuss one more thing, which is a crossroad a lot of marketers reach, even when it comes to starting their career. Right, there is the agency side, and then there is the brand side. So you
Hmm.
had a fair share of experiences even being in agencies. So
Hmm.
I know there are pros and cons everywhere. What would you recommend? Should somebody do agency in the first half of their career or later end of their career?
I mean, agency is one thing, but when I started off my career, I started off from an ad network back in the day, 2008, 2010.
Right.
ad networks used to be fairly big, and Google, Facebook did not exist. So I come from an era which nobody can believe right now. I come from an era wherein my agency where I used to work used to handle 96% of the digital business.
Wow.
Digital business. Today, even Google and Facebook has never been able to do that, right? So that's
Right.
because it did not exist back then, right? So they were just evolving, they're just coming into existence, right? So what I suggest to a lot of people is you need to be in the manufacturing unit. And what people don't get it is they see agency as that manufacturing unit. It's not, so the manufacturing unit is something wherein an ad network business comes in, wherein they really go talk to websites, get understand the inventory, understand the nuances of why certain ads are running in certain places. They do a lot of back end work, right? So it is important to understand the back end of it, and then you move on to the agency, and then you move on to the brand. At least that's my journey, and I believe, and I think that's helped me. And I'll explain why in very short manner. The moment I moved into agency, yeah, so I think agency was fantastic. I think I had a fantastic experience with Waymaker and MEC. Right, it was a bit like joining a marketing boot camp. Where every client came with a very unique challenges, and I have to adapt very quickly. I came in as a West head. You don't have the opportunity to settle down quick. You have to be really making meaningful work there. So agencies taught me the art of adaptability, right?
Mm.
Which in marketing is invaluable. It's no doubt about it. You have to quickly adapt to every. And the kind of categories that I was kind of catering towards, I started off with Eureka Forbes, then we had Netflix, then you have Mercedes, then you have Flipkart, then you have GoDaddy. The plethora of categories and the kind of conversations that you have over there is fairly diverse. So it kind of really helps you to evolve as a personality, adaptability, bringing in better efficiency in you as well. All of that combined together is invaluable from an agency experience. But later, at some stage, you need to take all of this and then move on to the brand side so you can pass it on. You can actually deliver those results, and you'll be able
Right.
to see that. Somewhere I feel a lot of people get stuck in this agency rut quite some time, and then they are able to move to a brand side. Because agency is also one more thing. I think that's in some manner. I'm pretty sure some of my agency colleagues might not agree, but you kind of get so stuck because of the importance, because of the kind of eyeballs that you generate, you get from across all. You probably not want to kind of let that go. Wherein in the plan side, you just focused on one product and
Right.
just kind of doing that, right? So that's where some of these things really cap, right? So, and I think the last most, which I keep telling that, a report by Gartner shows that data-driven marketing leaders are three times more likely to see increased revenue than those who don't leverage data effectively. Now, the reason I'm stating this is, I mean, you get access to so much of data in the agency. You need to really take that up, learn, and then move on to the brand side. But I urge people to move on to the brand side at some point. Take that risk.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that's a great way to put it. I think you get so much exposure into multiple industries, and I think your first principles get tweaked very well. Ki how can I understand the first principles of advertising and marketing and plug them into different customer personas and industries? So then you can actually go back to a brand and have a much better idea on how to kind of execute that, as you said. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
the last 5-6 years you've spent in edtech. Any particular reason that attracted you? Any particular story or any particular insight of the industry do you really believe in, and that's why you've stuck along to edtech for so long?
I mean, so when I started off in my career, when I was kind of trying to be, I came to a place wherein I was not really sure in terms of what would be my career steps. Right, this is very early stage. Just got out from college, had a great life till then. I didn't know what to do now. Right, so in that mode, I got into sort of an MBA exam, and I was studying at Career Forum. So that was my actual introduction in the career in the edtech space. I did not realize it, and that is my first stint of sales role. So I was kind of becoming an admission counselor, teaching and training students and the parents as well in terms of what is the top MBA schools that you should be. I myself have not really figured that out, but I was kind of guiding a lot of people. So, but it had an interesting take there, and that's I think somewhere I got stuck with that, in terms of
Mm.
learning, educating. Now, why edtech? I think over a period of time, see, it was inevitable that edtech is going to be a big thing, right? It felt that it is the right industry at the right time. You always have seen a pattern. There was an e-commerce pattern which kind of which kind of came up almost 7 8 years back. Then there was the wallets zone period of time, right? So which was just roughly 2 3 years back. There was a surge. Then came the edtech,
Mm.
right? So now edtech, as it has the power to make quality education accessible, and completely democratized, right? Which is especially significant in India. Now, currently, EdTech penetration in India, it stands at around hardly 4 5%. That's a huge opportunity of education system
Right.
which is existing there, right? So we've only scratched the surface. You talk to any of the EdTech leaders, we've just scratched the surface. There's such a big population. With over roughly around 400 million learners in India, I feel it's got a massive potential to reach more people and change more lives. The sector will evolve. I mean, I strongly feel that the sector will evolve, but it has to be through personalization, AI, and community building, community focused learning. I think that will help in evolving this. Today we are in that stage of bringing that evolution, right, and bringing that evolution to such an extent where the entire category will become a completely a hybrid model. So the reason I'm stating all of this is this was very inspirational for me in terms of where education is now going forward, and I want to be part of that journey. I've seen my education, you must have seen yours as well. It was not as advanced as what is going to be in the future, and I really want to be associated with that category for that primary reason, and hope to carry on.
Incredible. I also want to follow up on, I think there are very few companies which have actually survived the whole edtech fiasco. If I were to put it, a lot of companies went bust, but I think the two companies, or rather, I would say the three products you have worked at, I think some great decisions made by you. They continue to do very well, while a lot of them seem to do well but are not. So what do you think upgrade, interview bit, or scaler like did differently? Just I'm trying to understand if somebody is building an edtech today. I think it'll be a great cue to hear from you as to how should you approach building for edtech in India, especially considering the climate is iffy. People thought there's going to be a lot more, during COVID, but it all kind of went away. And then you hear a lot of chatter, on these topics. As somebody who's a little bit away and just reads headlines, I guess. So if you can kind of, guide any edtech operator and into what to build and what works for India, that'll be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the great learnings that I've had with both my stints, with Upgrade as well as for Scalar, is stay rooted to the principles. You'll probably have a lot of funds, but it is very important to be using the right, let's say, advertising platforms, right consumers, optimize, and optimize it
Mm.
to such an extent, and take it step by step. Basically, both my journeys, we were trying to kind of build a pathway to, okay, next 12 months, what is that journey going to be like?
Mm.
And then start telling those stories from day one so that by the end of 12th month, most of my TG are aware of what the brand stands for. Today, the challenge is people are not able to interpret what exactly would be a differentiator between an A versus B or a C. They feel all of them are the same, right?
Right.
It is very important to build that differentiating factor. So, in both my journeys, in the moment I started coming in, we kind of kind of created a completely clear journey, a pathway for how the communication has to go, and it has to take its time. You can't really rush towards the end goal. You have to take it by the time and constantly get feedbacks from the consumer. I think that was very important. So in both my journeys, every third month we were taking consumer feedbacks. Okay, this is what we were trying to say. Were you able to interpret this? I said, no, we were not able to interpret. We thought so is the reason. So if that goal deviation is happening, it is important for us to go back and redo that exercise. Fortunately, we had the team to kind of really, go back. Sit, do the exercise again, come back, send out a new communication. Not responsive, okay, go back and do it again. That model, there is no book to it. I think we just kept talking to the consumer again and again and again till you get it absolutely right. That doesn't mean that we've got it right even today. But I think there is what we've understood is it is a constant work in progress. Post COVID, the constant evolution is much more faster than what it
Hmm.
was before prior to 2019. I am seeing communication changes, behavioral shifts in less than 6 months now, which was not the case before 2019, right? That means it is a humongous task as a marketer to be very creative, and you
Right.
have only a 6 months window. I think that's something which I urge everybody in the edtech space as well. Take that and keep evolving.
Incredible. I think I hear consumer feedback a lot from, let's say, product folks, right, who are building, let's say, um, a, a strategy to create a customer experience. Now with marketing, I feel there's a lot of impatience in people, right? Because it needs to go out today and it needs to be delivered tomorrow, and there's a topical day after, and there's like fixed deadlines which you can't do a lot about. Can you tell me a little bit about what's your approach to consumer feedback with respect to marketing? Because there's again so much advice here. You have people saying, I think Henry Ford is popular for saying that if I ask people what they want, they'll say they want a faster horse instead of thinking of a car. At the other end, you have people talking about customer centricity and telling everybody needs to build, products based on the customer's demand. I think Amazon's a great example of that. So um, when I am, let's say, trying to create something for my company as a marketer, how do I approach consumer feedback? Right. My question is like, are you saying I should create a campaign and go to people and ask them what they feel? Should I make a creative? Is it a broad strategy? If you can just unpack that a little bit for us.
Sure, sure. I think it depends on the stage where the brand is, right? So, for example, let me take it from a brand perspective, which is at a very nascent stage. Okay, we've just
Hmm.
launched. We want to now start up. So, your conversation with the consumer is to find out what the gap is. What do they feel is the gap in the category? What do they feel is something which is missing out when they are interacting with, let's say, in the category itself, other brands? What do you feel is missing in their conversation,
Right.
right? Something which then you try to fill in our communication. And do we have that sort of a product inbuilt? So it depends on the stage. Now, this is for the nascent, the early stage. We move on to the, let's say, second stage wherein, let's say, we've started off. Yeah, I have necessary recall of a brand. What I mean recall is today I'm talking to 10 of my consumer. Two people from that 10 at least recalls without nudging that I know what the brand is. Yeah, so I just show the ad, I don't show the logos and stuff. Then comes the part wherein we try and understand, okay, did you get the messaging absolutely right? Do you feel that this is what the brand will stand for? That you have to do a consumer research. You have to do a consumer research. And I always suggest that when any sort of campaign is running, do it simultaneously to get a real time feedback, what the people think about it, right?
Hmm.
And if the messaging is not something which hits, you have to take a very quick call of, either optimizing it. When I say optimize, either shut it, go back to the drawing board, redo it basis the feedback, and come back at a later stage. But this cycle has to be very, very process and time oriented.
Hmm.
It can't happen. Oh, today five consumers have said, I'm not really getting the message that you're sending me. It doesn't mean that tomorrow I come up with a new message. No, you have to really understand what they're trying to say. So
Right.
there are two ways a person can communicate. I want water. I need water. It is the same thing, but the interpretation can be taken by every person in a very, very different way. So that interpretation comes in an Excel format. It is important that you interpret it very, very clearly. So what the
Got it.
consumers are trying to say as well. So I think that's something which I urge people to.
Fab. Small question. How many people should be there in a research cohort?
I think that depends on the category. I mean, I would say if it's e-commerce, then it probably I think it should be around between qual and quant combined should be around maybe roughly around 1,500 or maybe more than that because e-commerce is a fairly significantly big market as well. Right? From an edtech point of view, I think we primarily look at around 1,000. distributed between qual and quad.
Got it.
But yeah, roughly 1,000 to 1,500 sometimes, but that's about it. That's the benchmark. That gives us a great indicator.
Superb. No, I think thank you so much for that. I think this is always a question कि यार कितने लोगों के साथ बात करें and sometimes it's too much, it's too less. It's hard to kind of extrapolate then.
Yeah.
I want to now jump into asking you about working with international brands and localizing them. Just some time ago you mentioned you've helped a Netflix, you've helped Mercedes-Benz, a GoDaddy, um, and a few more. So when you are helping an international brand localize, what's the right approach to that? Are you because brands are pretty picky about how they should go about communicate about their own communication, but when you're doing it in, let's say, a country like India, which may have not just a core pillar but also like vernacular adaptations, and the list goes on and on. How do you ensure, like, what's your approach to making sure that you're still on brand but are able to still relate to the local audience?
Yeah, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges, especially when it came to Netflix and GoDaddy as well. Right? So because these were just very early stages for them. In fact, Netflix is just planning to enter, right? And very early stage in terms of they just wanted to kind of launch two shows, Iron Fist and Daredevil. I think these were two big shows that they wanted to get started with from a marketing point of view, right? Initial challenges is to kind of educate Indian market, right? So it is important for us to educate because most of the marketeers from there would be from a different country and they will not be from India. So we'll have to train them in terms of what are the Indian cultures, what are the Indian values. Just to kind of state very small, in one of the presentation that we had made, there's a word called Jugad. Nobody understands this except for an Indian
Correct.
citizen would understand that term really well. Everybody was amazed. What? How can this happen? I said, yes, we are a country of a jugad. You give me one thing, I will share it with four of my friends. Right. So that's how my cost will distribute it. You give it to me at any cheaper price, I will still cut it and give it to four people and distribute. That's called jugad. We are the nation of jugad, right? So I think that should be a second name, by all means. So I think that's we had to kind of adapt. Right? It became necessary for us to educate and then understand and explain them in terms of how marketing is going to be very different as against any other country out there. India changes every 100 kilometers, right? So, and that's how the nation is. So I think it was important that we started working. Let's say in India, fashion is all often tied to culture, community. I mean, we had to restructure the campaign, which was set up in US in a certain format. We had to restructure the entire campaign to highlight traditional motifs blended with contemporary designs. It appealing to the Indian sense of modernity rooted in fashion, right, in tradition. Right? So this it is while it is easy for me to tell here, it is very tough to kind of put that across in terms of what we can do. Right. So localized approach, when we did immediate increment. I think it's on both sides. We got a 30% sort of an increment the moment we went localized. Right. So that has been a great learning. Today we are fortunate. I think both the brands did not have to go through all of that. But in the initial stage, I think those were our biggest challenges: educating Indian culture and what it means.
Fab. I want to now dive deeper into localization and hyperlocal and even personalization for that matter. Another challenge on the flip side is a lot of brands in India only want to now talk to what they call the Bharat audience, right? Which is
Yeah.
multilingual, all over the country, extremely hyperlocal. Um, do you see that there is a lot of merit in creating now hyper local content, because traditionally we've only done that for a few states, but now more and more I think there's a huge shift towards people wanting to consume more hyper local content. Like my parents, for example, are Gujarati, and
Mhm.
just the number of Gujarati communications and content which has increased, it's pretty massive. So I wonder, as a CMO, do you feel that in India it is extremely imperative to have like a vernacular and a hyperlocal content strategy?
It depends on the category. I would not say it from an tech point of view. I don't think it's required. But it
Why
might be
would you say that?
required because, see, I think in edtech, it's all about education. It's all about knowledge. I don't think they a Gujarati teacher would do a fab job and not a Hindi teacher. Those
Fair.
things, those nuances, right? So, from a student's point of view, they're looking at somebody who can teach me well and who
Right.
can personalize your teaching as per what my confidence level is, not my language, right? So, if I'm an introvert, talk to me in that manner. Language doesn't really count much from an ethic point of view, but that might not be necessary, let's say from an entertainment categories or from an e-commerce point of view. I think for them, because the universe is larger, and the consumption pattern across geographies, across states of India changes, it becomes imperative for them to become as localized as possible. And today, that's one of the reasons why, if you look at, let's say, Netflix content or a Sony Live or a Z5 content, they become very localized, right? And they're
Yeah.
actually promoting a lot of local content because the consumption, and today's, if I have to distribute between regional language consumptions versus English will be ranking much lower than Hindi, Tamil, Kannada, Gujarati. A lot of these languages are consumed much more than an English content, right?
Right.
And as we speak, I'm actually seeing that there is this Indian root that people have, especially the new generations, have started. "Ki, I'm a proud Indian. I want to consume my content." I don't know where that came from, but yeah, I think I'm pretty happy for the fact that there's a lot of Indian content which is now coming up the ranks because of that. So yes, depending upon the category, it is the need of the hour to go as localized as possible. Yeah.
Fantastic. Um, I want to now touch upon what we briefly discussed earlier on, which is balancing creativity and strategy, right, in marketing. And I want to ask you this question from a pure play creative standpoint. I've been a designer, and I work with a lot of creative people, and there's a constant conversation on how, especially in something like performance, creativity is a skill. It's all about by ROI hai ki nahi. My client or my boss doesn't care if the creative looks good. They just want me to create 500 options and keep it on. And as a founder, for me, it works if it works, right? It's simple, and if it is so
Hmm.
measurable, you can finally validate what's the outcome of your creativity. So what's your perspective here, right? Do you feel that we are too data driven now, or do you think being data driven and having variety and options and hyper targeting is the future for even creative people right now?
I think it depends. I think you need to balance the mix. Sometimes we get too awed by the access to the data that you get, right? And in that honest, we start getting into micromanagement of that data. कि, आज तो मुझे तो डेटा नहीं ये कहाँ था आज तो आपको बदलना पड़ेगा. It doesn't happen, right? So anything which is over and above, you should avoid. It as simple as in our body. My doctor, and I'm talking to a doctor as well, Rahul, don't have this much, only have this much quantity of sugar in a day, right? So anything beyond that, it's the same everywhere. So let's remove sugar. I'll put data. Have only that much. Don't consume beyond, right? So, and you need to know where the balance has to be. And I think, unfortunately, there's no book to it. It depends upon the individual and how that person knows how to back off from over information. Because the moment you have over of anything, you're gone, right? So basically, what I train my team is to balance performance marketing with storytelling,
Hmm.
right? It has to come, and it's about using the data to enhance creativity. For example, if a lead comes, a prospect comes and engages with, it's as simple as a brochure, but he doesn't come back after that, right? I know the data says yes, the person has dropped off, right? What can we do now? It is important to understand why the person has dropped off and what sort of communication might just nudge him. You can't just give him a barrage of information कि देखो हम ये भी करते हैं, हम ये भी करते हैं.
Right.
Nahi, you have to be very mindful of that, and that's where creativity comes in, right? So necessary information in a very creative format can help, right? So and you need to enjoy that journey. Consumers on the other side should enjoy what the brand is trying to tell me. And today, consumers also, when I'm talking to a lot of consumers, right, they're very scared of dropping in a lead as well sometimes. कि राहुल मुझे ना डर लगता है कि the moment if I drop in, I get like emails, SMS, WhatsApp, calls, everything. That's what data can do sometimes. You
Right.
need to know
Absolutely.
how many times a person has been hit. Nobody checks that.
Yeah, I think
It's a
towards
balance
the end
of
you
that.
said towards the end, he said something brilliant, right? Where it's almost scary now to leave your number anywhere, otherwise they will छोड़ेंगे नहीं आपको is what you
Yeah,
say.
yeah, correct.
What comes first according to you? Is it a data driven strategy and then creativity, or do you first start with an idea and then you kind of use data to improve that?
No, I always look at the data first. Data is primarily to know in terms of who my consumer is and what has been
Right.
the consumption pattern. I think it's important just to understand a day in the life of my consumer, by all means, right? And whatever that data can tell me. Okay, so what does he do in a day? And that's where agency balance between agency and our internal team also comes in, right? So because I mean it's a combination, right? So data has to start to tell me, give me a direction. Where should I go? Once it's given me a pathway, then you should let go of the hand and you should just basically change the pattern, give it to the creative guy now. Okay, this is what my persona is, this is what he does, he or she does, and now you come in and the creativity can do a fantastic role. So you need to feed in the creative guy, creative persona, with just about necessary information about, let's say, who Kavan is. If I don't know anything about Kavan, if I don't know that you are a Gujarati, I mean, imagine if I know through data that you are a Gujarati and you consume Divya Bharati and all those newspapers, it is fantastic. I can send out a message to you only from those two channels and you will be able to relate to me.
Right.
Right? So I would urge
Absolutely.
from a data and then comes to.
Fantastic. um, I actually now read somewhere that your strategy includes building data pipelines and optimizing brand investments. Can you kind of unpack what a data pipeline exactly is?
Oh, okay. So data pipeline is again, what it means is organizing the entire data from multiple sources. Okay. What the sources would mean. Let's say you have a website. You have 15 to 20 pages, and you are running campaigns. Let's say through Google, through Facebook. That are organic. You're running through different partners. Now, today, a marketer as a CMO, my biggest challenge is I want to know what channel is performing really well. How is it working? What is my ROI on each and every channel? And let's say if I let go of certain channel, what is the impact, business impact that I would have? Basically, that's called cost optimizations, right? So for those, what we do is we create a clear view of the entire journey. Basically, that's a pipeline. Build a pipeline all the way from a, let's say, a consumer who has entered into scalar.com and what has been that journey all the way till conversion and his outcomes. So if you create a complete map, you'll be able to derive what sort of ROI and where is it coming from, who is that channel which is coming, right? So a consolidated data that helps me improve. In fact, we've always seen moment you have this very clear picture, your productivity improves by at least roughly 10 to 20%, which is good enough for me, right? So, and brand investments include anything that contributes to a long-term brand equity, right? And such as it can be content marketing, community building, customer experience, right? But by measuring the ROI of each initiative, I can prioritize which channels deliver consistent value, and that's what the data pipeline does for me.
Who's responsible to create this holistically? Because whenever I have seen my clients attempting to do that, a big challenge always comes with attribution. Sales and marketing and growth and SEO are all fighting with each other. Who got the lead in and who enriched the lead? So who takes the ownership on this, and how do you solve the attribution problem?
That's what I come in. The CMO
Okay.
plays a role there. I need to balance that communication because today, I mean, that's something which we joke around, right? When I speak to different teams, everybody comes up with this payment numbers. Rahul, we've done L2P this much. So, and there was a day. I think I'm sorry. I'm just going to digress now. There was a moment when all the different teams, including the sales, and everybody has come back and told me, we've got this much incremental, we've got this much incremental. I started writing down on a board. After every meeting, I started writing down on a board in terms of what that number is. And I just made everybody just to look at that number. What that number means is today we are a unicorn today by that number, right? So because everybody is attributed to, I've got 100, I've got 200. I just summed it up. I said, oh, fantastic. I should be a unicorn. Can I ask my finance person, how much money do I have right now in the bank? Well, we've not got. So I mean, in a way, I'm just going to keep it a little exciting, but uh, That's what I had to kind of explain. This attribution argument is never going to end. The balancing act is where a CMO will have to jump in and see from his lens and balance it out in terms of how do I see this number and this is what you should, right? So, and there are multiple approaches. Some brand will approach first touch, multi-touch. There are a lot of jargons that goes out. But I think it is important from the marketing head. It is his responsibility, and they need to shake hands with the salesperson as well to give equal credit. That balancing act is a responsibility between a marketing and a salesperson. If the marketing and salesperson do not shake hands, it is trouble. It is a trouble. Um, and well, yeah, a lot of work has to be done then. I can't mince more words there.
Right, right. Uh, See, being part of a lot of such conversations, even at my company at Indiefolio. So I think at all scales, this problem will always remain, as you say. So
Yeah,
I think I feel a little bit good about myself and my team. So thanks for sharing that.
absolutely.
You you mentioned about working with agencies some time ago,
Hmm.
and I wanted to kind of ask you what's generally your approach towards doing content creation. I think in today's world, a lot of times I'm hearing things like it's the end of the retainer, in-house is the new, a strategy which everybody is deploying. Some people believe in a hybrid approach, etc., etc. So
Hmm.
how is your creative production stack? What is your creative production stack? Is it in-house? Is it outsourced? Is it both?
I always believe in using be combining it, always a hybrid approach, right? So combining in-house capabilities along with agency expertise, both, right? What this setup gives us, I mean, it gives us agility because in-house team can do things, wrap things around quickly with our in-house, right? So it ensures brand consistency, and what the agencies can bring in is they bring in with a very fresh perspective, from larger campaigns, communications, and all. Yeah, so I mean, there's something which I've seen it in one of the stats as well. According to the national advertisers brand, almost 78% of the brands use both in-house and agency resources for this balance of efficiency and creativity, right? So uh, I urge team to balance this, and I mean, it's something right there. For example, if I see something, if this if today this is silver, I don't know when the spoon has been changed because I look at it every day. Today tomorrow somebody gives me a yellow spoon. Somebody will have to tell me, Rahul, the color has changed because I've been looking at it every day, right? So that's where the
Right.
agency and the balance between agency and in-house comes in. So it is hybrid throughout.
Fantastic. Um, on the agency front, right? I think you worked with quite a few. You worked at quite a few. What do you separates a good agency from a great agency?
It's more to do with people. I look for great people. I look for passion, right? So, and I've been fortunate to work with lots and lots of agencies. I think the um, a good founder or the good team, they're very passionate, innovative, they're very hands-on, right? And what I like about some of these agencies is there are some individuals. It's not to do with the agency, right? So let me just remove the term agency for now. There are certain individuals, and that's what the team plays, right? They bring very proactive ideas. They see not as a partner, they see as another. Sorry, they see them as a partner, not just any other client.
And
It makes a lot of difference. राहुल, हमें ये भी करना चाहिए. आप क्या कहते हो? ठीक है. I got up from that side, right? So the best agency acts as an extension of my team, right?
right,
And it challenges us while being adaptable, right? So, and that's a great. That's what I constantly look for, and even my during my agency stint as well. The only reason we were successful with some of the brands was only for the fact that I had this rock star team who was able to kind of do quick turnarounds, great performance, great ROIs. It is very individual driven, and I'm still a firm believer of that.
fantastic. So I think for all agency founders listening to it, just hire good people, and as you said, be obsessive and passionate. I think that's a great signal for everybody here.
Yeah.
Um, I think we're actually at the last question now already, Rahul. It's been a
Oh,
fantastic
wow.
conversation so far. You've been very articulate. So thanks for that. Uh, I think you've been giving a lot of advice throughout the entire podcast, but as a parting thought, if you'd like to just, share some advice to young and aspiring marketers, you've gone from being, a junior sales person to a CMO, and a lot of people would want to, have be in your shoes one day. So for anybody who wants to, build a successful marketing career, any advice for them?
There's a lot of advices actually. Let me structure this. See, one thing about marketing, I mean, it's never ending. Yeah, it is going to be constant. Meaning you'll have to constantly run. It's like a marathon. Yeah. Just that, let's say if you're running and you're imagining yourself, oh, it is going to be, let's say, a 42-kilometer race, the new trends will push that race to any further away. Right? So the moment you say, "Oh, I'm reaching," suddenly the entire trends, every pattern, all of them have shifted. Oh, my career goals have, my marketing goal has shifted now. I need to learn something. Right? So, my first piece of advice to everybody is, I kept saying it in in this podcast as well, is to constantly be curious and adaptable. Right? As you grow older, and there is this new generation who comes, and there are a lot of new products that keeps coming up. It is important that we stay connected to those. Otherwise, my relatability with the youngsters might just go away, right? So, it is important to stay curious and adaptable at all times. There is always something new coming in our way, and as I
Right.
said, every 6 months it's changing, right? Secondly, is to build a very strong foundation in both data and creativity, right?
Mhm.
Think of it like a salt and pepper, right? So one cannot be without the other.
Right.
Yeah. So otherwise the dish is just bland if you don't know both. If you don't can't
Right.
have both, right? So um, and the final one, I think the third one is, uh, look, you have to network. You have to network a lot. Network like your career depends on it always, right? So you have to keep constantly find mentors. I've been fortunate to really have some of the great mentors in the industry. If there is some sort of a roadblock, I'll go to them and say, okay, listen, I've hit a roadblock now. Tell me, what can we do? Right? So make connections, keep those relationships very strong. uh, Unfortunately, I don't see that in many, in the new generations. They're like, I don't want to listen to this guy, I don't think he knows much. Keep those connections strong, and just always remember, coffee chats are the new job applications. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
to constantly have that conversations there. I think the last one, and I've learned it over a period of time. Today I can say it, but I think a few years back I could not. Is that, don't fear for failure. I myself, am honestly, I think before I say this, I myself had this sort of a fear from failure. What will happen? But I think as you started learning, as you started giving results, that just goes away. But it only happened because I constantly started getting feedbacks from my mentors, my managers. I started evolving. Right. I've had campaigns that went absolutely viral, but I've had some of the worst experiences as well. Today, I would not like to be part of or like to talk about.
Mm,
Right.
mm.
So whether campaign is successful or not, you need to give yourself an opportunity to refine it at all times. Right. So I mean, that's just, there's a saying in marketing. It's always better to be memorable than safe, right? And that's I think it's just about that. So it's all about connection. Keep the consumer at the heart of, basically the heart of everything, and don't be afraid. Just have as much fun as possible. I'm saying it, but a lot of my peers who would probably say, "Oh, Rahul, come on, you are, of all the people, you was like yes." But today I'm saying it. Just trying to experience it. Just enjoy as much as possible. Yeah,
Fantastic, Rahul. That's some golden advice for a lot of aspiring marketers, and I'm assuming generally a lot of people as well. This brings us to the end of the podcast. I had a brilliant time. I learned quite a lot, and I hope you had a good time.
absolutely. Yeah, in fact, it was a great time. Really great to have a catch up with you, Kavan. And yeah, I think that.
Awesome. Thanks, Rahul, once again, and for everybody who's tuned in so far. If you'd like to hear another, marketing leader soon, please like, share, and subscribe. A new episode will come out very, very soon. Thank you.